Check out on the radar who is seeing some precipitation that's changing over from rain to freezing rain and sleet to who is just waking up dry. In town, south of town, you're under cloudy skies and temperatures are actually above freezing. Even across portions of 290 northwest bound. So from Cypress into Hempstead this morning, we haven't had any reports of any freezing rain or ice. If anything is already, if still on the ground, and temperatures were below the freezing point, maybe didn't get direct sunlight, maybe it's still frozen, but otherwise not any new accumulation that we're talking about. South of I-10 and areas in town, we're looking great. We're looking really good this morning. We've had big improvements in the roadways in town and south of town, which has been really nice to see. Also, temperatures are cooperating, 35 in Galveston, 33 at Hobby Airport. Hobby Airport early this morning sent out a tweet saying they had crews working overnight and facilities are back up and running, so it's looking good. IAH 31, they have also been tweeting out saying that they're still experiencing some delays and temperatures are just below that freezing point. But take a look, areas north of town, you see why the problems are. 28 in Huntsville, 28 in College Station, 29 this morning in Brenham. So we kind of have a split on who's seeing that winter precip, and that's why that winter weather advisory is in effect. Actually, the National Weather Service extended this for our northwest counties until 6 o'clock tonight. So if you were trying to get anywhere, areas north of town and especially even north of here, forget about it. The roadways and travel conditions are still going to be extremely dangerous, but that's north of town. In town, I think majority of you are going to see a forecast that plays out like this today, where you'll be under cloudy skies and it's going to be breezy all day. Temperatures are going to remain in the 30s all day. High temps only go to 37, but it's going to be feeling down to 25. So the feels like temperatures will be a good 10 to maybe upwards of even 12 degrees colder than the actual air temperature. Take a look at what we're forecasting tomorrow. I'm going to really dive in a little bit deeper about this hard freeze watch that's in effect for pretty much everyone. This is area wide, but this is going to take effect tonight through tomorrow morning. So Friday morning, 24 hours from now, you're waking up in the teens to low 20s north of town, mid to low 20s in town. So it's going to be a really cold start to your Friday morning. This is the type of cold that could burst pipes. It could freeze your pipes. So all the winter precautions that we had to take Monday into Tuesday because of that, you're going to need to do this again. All of these issues are going to continue for one more night. Again, we'll talk more about this in just a little bit, but at least we haven't been talking about any more freezing precipitation or any more accumulation of ice stuff. That's good.
That is good. So this time yesterday, I've been telling you all morning, we were about 170 as far as the icy spots reported. Now we're down to about 120, but again, those 120 spots are still significant. So let's take to our drivetexas.org map, and you can see we still have some, see those purple splotches around town? We still have some closures, and I'm going to get into that in just a little bit. But let's take you around the horn with our TransStar cameras. So I want to show you a portion of the South Beltway. It is clear as far as what you're dealing with out there in lanes, but no one's really driving on them because that portion of the tollway is still shut down because of icy conditions. Just as a precaution, I think at this point, if they did reopen at least that portion, they'd probably be okay. You saw it yourself. But again, it's better to make that safe call, as Cheetah was talking about the weather that's coming in. So they're just going to go ahead and keep that shut down. As we look at our hotspot rotating cameras, you can see Gulf by the causeway, that upper left corner. You can still see a little bit of snow packed on the shoulder, but that's not uncommon after a night we had and a morning like this, but you can still drive in that area. Just proceed with caution. And then Katy Freeway, as you head through the energy corridor by Highway 6, you just need to slow it down a little bit, but again, no icy conditions reported or accidents in that vicinity. The bigger story is this map right here. So all of those red lines that you're looking at are the portions where in our viewing area, there's still a concern. These are the areas where we're going to see most of those icy spots. So 290 through Cypress into Waller County, 249 really iced up pretty good just north of 99 especially, and then your North Freeway heading into the Woodlands through Spring. Hardy Toll Road is shut down still as well, and then 99, that's going to be closed in both directions there. And then on your East Tex Freeway, In the Kingwood area and north of that, that's where you're going to see some hot spots as well. North Beltway, still pretty icy out there. Now, the only odd spot in town that is kind of far away from there, but they're continuing to see some icy spots, is going to be 225. It's still shut down in both directions. Feeders are open, so if you have to get through from the East Loop to 146, you'll be able to do so nicely. 146 Fred Hartman Bridge is still closed at this point. We will monitor if there are any accidents or any stalls out there, but right now, Xavier, looking good on that front at least.
At least. All right, so that's a bit of good news. All right, well, good news, sticking here. More people are getting power back. Scratch that, great news. The bad news is that we're not out of the woods yet. CenterPoint is still asking people to conserve energy as best you can. Last night, Armia Gradney talked to Tal Centers, the Vice President of Regional Gas Operations, to find out why this is.
The message going into tonight is conservancy. Why is this so critical?
When the power gets dispatched and the lights go on, what you immediately see is an immediate surge of power into the grid, as well as the gas. All the gas appliances immediately come on. And so that's a huge demand that can come on the system immediately. So what we want to do is make room for that to be able to handle that when we dispatch that all at once.
We're hearing from a lot of people all across the city, CenterPoint customers, who are asking, how do we know how long these outages are going to last? Is there any type of schedule there so they can prepare and know how much time they're going to have the electricity for?
CenterPoint Energy is ready to deliver as soon as the energy and the capacity is released from ERCOT. When ERCOT releases capacity, they dispatch it across the entire Texas grid. CenterPoint Energy receives a portion of that dispatched capacity. Our commitment is whatever they release in generation capacity, we're going to dispatch it and do our best to bring people up immediately. And that's why we want to tell people to conserve so that there are no interruptions to that, so that we can bring it to them as quickly as possible and not have any interruptions in between.
Well, if you've been fortunate enough to have power these past few days, you need to take a look now at your electricity contract. If you're on a variable rate plan, you could be looking at a huge bill by the end of the month. But if you have a fixed rate contract, you're not out of the woods either. Your retail provider may be trying to get you to leave. Matt Doherty explains.
When you sign a contract with an electricity provider, you get two options, a fixed rate plan or a variable rate plan. The fixed rate plan locks you into a set price per kilowatt hour of electricity that you use. A variable rate plan charges you based on the current wholesale price of power, where supply and demand determines the rate. This week, the extremely cold weather increased customers' demand, while at the same time generators lost the ability to provide the supply.
It's like doing shorts and puts on the stock market.
Fred Anders, who runs the website TexasPowerGuide.com, says that for customers with variable rate plans, the price of power went from 3 to 8 cents per kilowatt hour to as much as 900 cents per kilowatt hour.
For the average home in Texas, it translates to probably $450 a day.
But for customers on fixed rate plans who never lost power, it was the opposite. Those electric providers still had to give them power. However, it was costing them hundreds of times more than the rate they had agreed upon in the contract.
Offering lotteries on, a Tesla.
Anders says for those fixed rate customers who are winning tonight, they should closely watch what happens next. If the retail provider goes out of business because of this, the customers will have to find another provider. Tonight, those choices are slim. Last week, there were dozens to choose from. Right now, only 8. And if a customer doesn't pick a new one in this case, they'll automatically be assigned to a provider of last resort and charge the wholesale market price for power. Anders says you don't want to wait for that to happen. Start shopping around as soon as it looks like the retail provider will be forced to close its doors. Matt Doherty, KHOU 11 News.
Matt Doherty, thank you so much. So you just heard from him, and now we are joined by Fred Anders of TexasPowerGrid.com. Fred, thank you for joining us this morning. Texas has been a real mess. And I have just this question. I don't know if this is a you question, but I want to ask it because it's been on my mind all morning long as we've seen Texans and people here in Houston start to get power back. And we're talking yesterday, we were at 1.3 million or more than that. And the power starts coming back. Is there a reason why just all of a sudden overnight it started happening, as opposed to why wasn't this days ago? Because a lot of people have been without power now for 48 hours, 72 hours. So I don't know if that's a you question, Fred, but I'm asking you because it's been on top of my mind.
Oh, why we have the outages? It's due to the fact that the Texas power infrastructure is designed for extreme heat, but not for extreme cold. It just it didn't make cost effective sense to do so, and this is a rare occurrence, but unfortunately it's now happened, and now we have to deal with some of the consequences.
All right, so moving forward, for you, what is next moving forward? I guess that is the question everybody really wants to know. As people start to get power back, where do we go from here?
I think in the near term, we'll see electricity prices rise a little bit as some of the retailers take a more conservative approach to setting their rates. But over the medium and longer haul, I expect things will settle back down again as competition kicks in and things get back to normal.
I think we could all agree that we would love for things to get back to normal, Fred. Let's go ahead and bring in Lauren Tallarico now. And Lauren has a few viewer questions from folks that have been sending them in. You can still send in your questions, 713-526-1111. Lauren, you have some questions?
Yeah, a comment I've seen online from a lot of people, though. Of course, we're all happy to be getting our power back, but a lot of people not happy about the fact we might see some higher rates because of that. Can you talk to the viewers, a little bit about why those rates would go up and why that money hasn't been used over the past several years to upgrade the system? The retailers generally set rates based on what their average cost is over the year, which in Texas is particularly about summertime due to our air conditioning loads. This winter storm is an exception case. But I can't really speak to why hasn't been done, or why more hasn't been done in the past. That relates more to the ERCOT and the grid operators and the programs and incentives that they place on the retailers and the generators to do that. Gotcha. We want you to have all the answers for us, Fred. Come on, I know we're asking you things that you probably no. One more question. One more question for you. We're going to have another hard freeze here in the Houston area overnight tonight. What are the chances that people are going to lose their power again as the energy consumption goes up?
Well, ERCOT is still predicting rolling blackouts, although they have recently said that they hope they get more to the actual rolling type, where the power comes back on relatively quickly rather than the extended outages that people have been experiencing so far. So if they have to do that for the next day until the generation comes back up to meet the demand, then hopefully it's in a more controlled experience than people have had so far.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to swallow when you think, okay, it's just going to be for a couple hours as opposed to several days.
Much easier.
Yeah,
Fred Much easier, yeah.
With TexasPowerGuide.com. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll be right back after this break.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm joined now by Doug Shoup with AAA. Doug, good to see you this morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Stephanie. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. We have a lot of questions we want to ask you about because us Texans, we are not used to having to get our cars all prepared before and after this kind of weather. So after the deep freeze, what should people be looking at with their cars?
Well, this is really a good, important topic because the harsh winter conditions that we've been experiencing really can take a toll on a vehicle. One of the first things that you need to do, of course, when it starts warming up and everything starts to thaw out, is give your vehicle a good cleaning. You want to wash the undercarriage, the wheel wells, really get up underneath the vehicle because a lot of the de-icing materials, the salt and the sand, they could be corrosive for weeks and months to come. So you really want to give your vehicle a good cleaning and make sure that you're washing it with water. Don't try to wipe the sand and the salt off with a towel because that could end up scratching your paint.
Absolutely. That brine mix is no joke coming from a girl from Indiana. So I had a little bit of experience with this. But again, we are just so not used to this. So, okay, clean our cars nice and good. And it sounds like this weekend is going to be a good time to do it. Now, what else should we be looking at? Because as far as tires, I know when I'm looking at my screen on the dashboard, it messes with the PSI. Why does that happen? And what should we do? Should we be checking it with a gauge?
Yeah, you need to really check your tire to make sure that it's properly inflated according to the vehicle manufacturer recommendations. Tires are among our most crucial components in our vehicle because they keep us well grounded on the streets and keep that traction for the roadways. You want to check your tire tread and your tire pressure. The tire tread can be checked simply with a quarter. Take a quarter, put it in the grooves of your tire. If you see the top of Washington's head, then that means it's time to replace the tire because the tread is getting low. You also want to make sure that your tires are properly inflated because properly inflated tires will help provide that cushion for your wheels should you encounter potholes, which oftentimes happens after these winter blasts. And so you want that proper cushion on your tires to prevent any damage to your suspension components. So really check your tire inflation, your tire tread. Replace those windshield wiper blades because the harsh winter weather can cause the breakdown in the rubber components, and then you're not going to have a clear view outside of your windshield. So replace the windshield wipers if you're not getting that clean streak across the windshield when you're using it. Check all of your fluid levels, clean the inside of your vehicle, vacuum it out, wipe it up really well. And then also your battery. Check to make sure that your battery is fully charged. A battery loses a third of its power during extreme temperatures. As the outside air cools off, it causes the oil in your vehicle to thicken. Your battery has to work harder because the parts are moving slower. So make sure that your battery is fully charged.
Those are really good tips, and I really especially liked what you said about the tires because I think maybe people in the Midwest, up north, and on the East Coast, they're used to changing their tires more often because they deal with this kind of weather. But here in Texas, we kind of sneak around because tires are so expensive, especially if you have to get a whole set of 4 or 5 with the safety tire and back. So we kind of go as long as we can, and that could turn into an ice skating rink if you hit the roads with bad weather. Okay,
you want to maintain that traction. Also, the potholes can be so damaging. And if you don't have that proper inflation in your tires, the potholes that we typically see after these extreme weather events can cause damage to your wheels.
That is true. Okay, let's talk about as far as AAA crews and roadside assistance that have been needed here in the state of Texas. What kind of trends are you seeing or have you been able to assess as far as the calls you've gotten, especially this week?
Well, we're all hands on deck. I mean, our number one priority is getting to our members who need to be rescued. Of course, this is a challenging situation for everybody. So even our independent service providers are not able to get out there quite as quickly as they normally would just because the conditions are so dangerous out there on the road. So we're asking our members if they are in a safe place to just stay put, like meaning they're already at home. They don't need any service to their vehicle to get them to a safe location. Just stay put until the weather gets a little bit better. Now, for those who, of course, are stranded on the side of the road, then we want them to call us, and so we can get them, safely to a safe location or on their way as quickly as possible.
Really good information. Doug Shoup from AAA, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. Stay safe, everybody.
You as well. All right, let's go back to weather. Cheetah Craft, what are we looking at today, and are conditions going to deteriorate overnight today?
Okay, yes. So tonight into tomorrow morning, as far as our temperatures go, that's going to be the biggest concern, because tonight we will yet again be dealing with temperatures at a hard freeze level, so teens and 20s. This morning, as far as conditions go, it's areas really northwest of town. So from Brenham into Livingston this morning, this is the area. I mean, when you look at our radar, I mean, it's almost clear to see. The pink is indicating where we're seeing freezing rain or sleet. The white is obviously where we've seen and heard reports of a few flurries, and this is where we have some ice. Everybody else, you're waking up to clouds in place and even temperatures at or even slightly above the freezing point. Now, portions of 290, areas from Cypress into Hempstead this morning, we haven't seen any additional freezing rain or any new icing. Anything that would be there would be left over from what has already fallen. So even as I put our future track into motion, 2 o'clock this afternoon, we're still dealing with this winter weather. The position of this jet stream is not allowing us to see really any breaks with this winter precip to our north, as temperatures are just below freezing here. As we get into about 5, 6 o'clock, see that winter weather advisory expires at 6 o'clock this evening. And finally, the winter precip moves out of here. And then overnight, what happens is these clouds break, so that moisture starts to break apart, and that's what's going to lead to temperatures tomorrow morning in the teens and 20s. This morning, you're waking up 33 at Hobby Airport, 35 in Galveston. I know if you're watching us on the live stream, did you catch the latest from Hobby Airport? They had crews working overnight, and all conditions are good. Hobby Airport, good to go. IH still experiencing some big delays, but at least it is open. Temperatures, though, feeling this morning in the teens and 20s, and those feels like temperatures are going to be an issue throughout the day. We'll talk more about the winds and what I'm expecting from that coming up in a little bit. Okay, I'll send it back over to you.
All right, Cheetah, it's like deja vu here in traffic. Earlier, we showed you our TransStar camera on the westbound side of 290 at Skinner. Take a look behind me as we pull this up full. We have action there yet again. Now, they shut down all of those westbound lanes earlier because of ice. It wasn't a crash. It was simply because of ice. They assessed it, and then they reopened the lanes, and boom, we've got ourselves a crash. So is it related to weather? You can never tell until they let us know, but it sure doesn't look good. It sure looks suspicious, doesn't it? So once again, that's on your westbound side of the 290 in the Cypress area. And then on the upper right corner of this quad cam, you're going to see activity as well as they move it off the exit. That's the same activity. It's just a different angle of what's going on. Not much happening elsewhere, so that is good news. I will keep you posted on any stalls or other accidents we have in the area, but right now that 290 in Cypress, the only one we're dealing with. We'll be back after this break.
Cold weather means using a lot more energy. I'm Tiffany Craig. CenterPoint Energy suggests setting your thermostat no higher than 68 degrees and then dress in layers. But to keep costs down, 65 is the ideal setting. And when you leave the house, lower it to 60. If your heating system isn't working properly, it can cause a fire or carbon monoxide poisoning. I'm Tiffany Craig. A space heater that uses gas, propane, or wood should be vented to the outside. And double check your carbon monoxide and smoke alarms now to make sure they're working properly. Keep the cold air out and make your home airtight against this frigid weather. I'm Tiffany Craig. CenterPoint Energy suggests sealing leaks around your doors, windows, or pipes with caulk or weather stripping. Also, consider adding more insulation in your attic. That will help too.
welcome back, everybody. If you're just joining us, good morning. Time is just about to be, let's see, wait for it. Yep, 7:27. So we want to get a quick check of the CenterPoint outage map, the outage tracker. And this is huge progress. If you're just waking up overnight, we're now down to just 45,000 Houstonians, or I should say Houston customers, without power. Now, if you went to bed early last night, you know, there were more than 1 million. So to hear less than 45,000 is really good, really good news. But obviously, plenty of people still need help, and CenterPoint says they are putting out all the energy and gas that they receive from ERCOT.
That number is dropping really quickly, so it is good to see that. All right, with that in mind, we are seeing a lot of viral claims saying that frozen wind turbines are the main cause of the power outages here in Texas. So our Verify team is looking into this and getting you the facts. Here's Jason Puckett.
Are wind and solar power the main causes of widespread power shortages in Texas? Why are we talking about this? Well, millions in the Lone Star State are still without power, and now politicians are pointing their fingers at renewable energy sources, saying they're to blame. But is that actually what's happening? Our sources here are multiple reports from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. First, we need to explain that Texas has its own independent power grid. That makes it difficult for them to borrow power from other regions. Now, 90% of the Texas grid is managed by ERCOT. Right now, they report that 185 generating units have gone offline during these storms because of, quote, a combo of frozen wind turbines, limited gas supplies, low gas pressure, and frozen instrumentation. Texas Governor Abbott says one of the biggest problems is frozen natural gas pipes.
It's just frozen right now. It's frozen in the pipeline. It's frozen at the rig. It's frozen in the transmission line.
So,
and
Governor,
so they are incapable, the natural gas providers are incapable of being able to come up with a gas that feeds into the generators that generate the power that will send power to people's residences.
ERCOT says a total of 46,000 megawatts of potential power can't be generated right now. 61% of that loss is from thermal sources like natural gas, coal, and nuclear plants. Only 39% is from solar and wind energy. That means the claims that wind and solar power are the main cause of the current power shortages in Texas are false. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
All right, Jason, thank you. If you have something you want us to verify, make sure you send us an email to verify@khou.com, or you can also reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter. Keep it here. We'll be right back answering more of your questions after the break.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress, or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
from the KHOU 11 studios, this is H-Town Rush.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of H-Town Rush. I'm Stephanie Simmons.
And I'm Xavier Walton alongside Cheetah Craft and Lauren Tallarico.
We are live right now on KHOU.com, Facebook, and of course our other digital channels as well.
Yes, we are. Welcome. We are taking your questions, talking to experts, and getting answers for your questions. Let us know what you want to know. Text us at 713-526-1111.
Yeah, I think I've got that number saved.
It's in there. It's in
on
there.
speed dial in my memory. We've got more interviews on the way, including some survival tips from Survivor Man himself. But first, Cheetah, let's go ahead and talk about the weather and traffic.
Okay, we are starting off this morning with a winter weather advisory. That is for areas northwest of town. So a lot of you here, are you streaming us? Did you click the Facebook Live? Well, you're waking up to cloudy skies, temperatures in the 30s, but we're not talking about any new additional precipitation. Only really Brenham to Livingston this morning is starting off with freezing rain or a little sleet, maybe even a few flurries, and you can see that on our radar. I wanted to zoom in cross portions of 290. Here's 45 northbound, so we're including Spring, the Woodlands, all the way through Conroe. You're just under cloudy skies. It's cold, it's breezy out there, but even across portions of 290 from Cypress into Hempstead, we've been tracking dry conditions this morning and temperatures, again, hovering around the freezing point or just a hair below. 29 in Conroe, 30 degrees in Tomball, 29 this morning in Brenham, but you can see that good stretch of 20s this morning, and that's where we're seeing that rain, or what would be rain, transitioning to freezing rain or sleet this morning. Both airports this morning, 33 at Hobby, 31 at IAH, 35 in Galveston. All of our coastal communities, you've had a couple days, or I guess a good 24 hours here where we haven't seen any other frozen precipitation. That's nice. Breezy winds are going to make our 30s today feel in the 20s. Winds are actually going to pick up this afternoon with gusts up to about 20 to 25 miles per hour. The reason why the winds are going to play a role today, it's going to make it feel colder out there. So I know you're going to be cranking that heater. A lot of you got power. That's been our big story overnight. Power has been restored for so many of you. However, with so many people needing it, feels like temperatures down to the 20s, I think it's still going to be an issue. Now let's talk about the cold, because it's going to be cold today, but let me tell you when this hard freeze watch is going to take effect. It's tonight through early tomorrow morning. Look at the counties that are under this hard freeze watch. Everyone needs to prepare for the potential of their pipes either freezing or the potential of them bursting. We are going to drop down overnight to the teens and 20s. This is 24 hours from now, and everyone will be looking at these hard freeze conditions. After tomorrow morning, temperatures are going to slowly pick up even with our overnight lows, but you need to take all the winterized proper precautions today and to prepare your pipes in your homes for tonight into tomorrow, and of course the power as well. Now this morning though, I know we've been scanning the roadways stuff, and so far you've been saying pretty good, especially in town, south of town.
Not terrible. Everything that you were forecasting for today happened in the good news department, and as Jeff Lindner was telling us as well, another meteorologist for the area. So what y'all were saying is that 59 is looking a-okay, and it is, and it was yesterday evening. So a little bit of good news for our friends who were super frustrated in the Greatwood area, Sugarland region, and even Richmond, who couldn't get through because of all of the icy conditions. Now let's take you to another spot with our TransStar camera and pull this camera up full for you. So a few minutes ago we did have a solo spin, and that was on the westbound side of 290 right here at Skinner. And then before that, they shut down the lanes, the police did, because there were icy patches reported. They took a walk around and said it was okay, and then boom, that person spun out. So maybe it wasn't okay after all. But regardless, if you are heading in the area in the next few minutes, it is open once again, so they were able to clear that accident. Here's our quad cam for you. So let's take a look around the horn here. The Gulf Freeway by Fuquay in between the Beltway and 610 Loop looking okay, and then pretty much all of the other freeways around town do not have the icy conditions reported except on the Katy Freeway, and that is closer to 99, and we anticipated that would happen. So other areas of town, and these are the areas that Cheetah was talking about as well, who are getting the rougher weather. So 99, 249, 290, North Freeway up in the Woodlands, Montgomery County, and Hardy Toll Road still shut down, and then a portion of the Beltway, and that's by Bush Airport. The other spot in town that's pretty far away from that, 225 remains shut down in both directions just because of some spotty icy patches. Feeders are open. 146 is also closed, as is the Fred Hartman Bridge, but we knew that was going to happen. They continued to shut that down as a precaution. Xavier.
Yeah, Steph, but north of town still looks like it's a little problematic with all that freezing rain and ice. Well, we've been talking about the light at the end of the tunnel with this storm, but have you thought about the hidden costs coming your way? We're talking about the reheating of your homes, or the bills for repairs, and so much more. Here's Jason Wheeler from our sister station in Dallas.
First came a winter blast, now comes a soaking of the money kind. We're going to hit on a few power-related financials. Let's start with this. You have a plan, but do you know what it is? When you signed up for electric service, you either got an indexed rate, a variable rate, or hopefully a fixed rate. Log on to your electricity account or find the paperwork so you can be sure. Here's why. There is a marketplace where electricity is bought and sold in bulk before it ever gets to most of us retail consumers. Now, with supply and demand so out of whack this week, the wholesale cost of electricity for 1 megawatt of power in Texas went from about $50 to $9,000. If you're on a fixed rate plan, what you pay per kilowatt hour isn't affected by that. If you're on an indexed or variable one, your rate can move with that market. Now, depending on how the plan is set up, some customers and even some electric companies are in for some sticker shock. One provider is even suggesting that our members switch to another provider with a fixed rate. Now, some have a much more difficult time changing their plans. Usually, we're talking about businesses that use a lot of power. It is a gamble with these flexible plans. They may have recently been paying about 3 or 4 pennies per kilowatt hour. Now it's closer to $2 or more. If rates like that keep up, a CEO of a Dallas electric brokerage told me that some businesses could actually go out of business just because of their next electric bill.
I've seen in the past, speaking for larger commercial customers or even small business, they go from a $15,000 bill to a $200,000 bill, and then next thing you know, they're going out of business.
Finally, if you didn't lose electricity, congratulations. Except if you have a heat pump system and one of those fancier screens for a thermostat, you may have seen it read emergency heating recently. That is a secondary heater that kicks in automatically, usually when the temps outside drop below about 30 to 35 degrees, and they've been well below that lately. Emergency heat does make the house nice and toasty again, but it eats up electricity, up to 50% more than your heat pump does. So if you kept your thermostat higher than the mid or high 60s, let's say, and emergency heat was running a lot, be prepared for a potentially big spike in your next electric bill. For those who lost power, sorry. And it still might cost you. I saw people whose indoor temperatures dropped to 24 degrees. Yeah, they weren't paying for electricity while it was off, but try heating a home from 24 all the way back up to 68. And a rule of thumb, each degree you add makes your heating cost rise by about 3%. Multiply that by about 44 degrees, and you see that the money you saved while you were shivering in the dark has now been spent, and maybe then some. So be prepared for the possibility of a higher than usual bill, even if you were in the blackout for a long time. I've got a lot more info and resources with today's post at Jason Wheeler TV. I can't keep you warm, but I am trying to help keep you right on the money.
And there you have it. So that's what comes next. But what about right now? We are joined by survival expert Les Stroud, and you may know him from the hit show Survivor Man. Les, thanks for being with us. So a lot of people here are currently without power and water, getting frustrated. They're panicked. They could use a little help just keeping it together. What do you have?
Yeah, and unfortunately, I come with 2 pieces of sad irony. And the first irony is, of course, that a lot of the people that would need to hear this advice can't right now because they don't have the power, and so perhaps they don't have their screens on. And then the other strange irony is that right now I'm currently producing a special called Surviving Disasters with Les Stroud for American Public Television. So that'll be on for them, unfortunately, a little bit late. This is an all hands on deck kind of situation as well. It does need to be taken seriously. People have succumbed to this, but I'm gonna run down a quick short list for you. That is the all hands on deck emergency moment here. If we're in that situation where you're in your home and it's just that cold and you want to condense your home down. So don't be living in 7 rooms or even 3 rooms. If you can, condense everything down to 1 room. Bring in all of your supplies that way. You want to get in a bit of a sacrificial mind as well. So you might have to sacrifice blankets and mattresses, things that may be ruined in the process. This is about saving your life. So you get those blankets, those mattresses up against the wall, up against the windows. This is becoming a little claustrophobic even as I say it, actually, but it's something to do for survival. Condense your large living space down into 1 small space, but then you've also got sanitation, don't you? So you do have the bathroom to think about. You want to, here's something I've actually done in a bad situation before. Let's throw modesty, not necessarily modesty, but small conveniences aside. When you go to sleep under a ton of blankets. I have one time in -45 slept under a whole whack of blankets with my partner and actually was no heat and stayed warm. So when you go to bed, don't try to sleep normally. Pile up the blankets. One time I even slept in between a mattress and a box spring because the mattress was the only mattress I had. Don't use an open flame inside. That's a big thing. It's so tempting. It's so difficult not to get flames going. Maybe you happen to have a gas stove that's still working, or you want to bring in your camping stove. This is very, very dangerous. You can succumb to the noxious and the toxic fumes and die from this. So it's hard to say don't do that, but because you want to bring the heat in, but that's a very big dangerous thing to do. Staying hydrated is really, really important, which is really difficult in this situation. Consuming sugars. This is not the time to be on a diet. This is not the time to worry about so much what you're eating. You want to stay hydrated and you want to have food sources going into you. And that would include using a lot of people think about it quickly, hopefully, is barbecues. If you got a barbecue outside, you're going to use it outside. That's a way to get water warmed up. That's a way to cook food and use that outside. So keep the food going in. Here's a little trick that I like to say a lot of times. Before you go to bed at night, take a 1-inch square of cheddar cheese, if you have it, and eat that right before bed. Isn't that the goofiest piece of advice? But the reality is that I know, but it burns in your stomach all night. I've done that hundreds of times out in the wilderness and in situations like this, and it burns in your stomach and keeps you. I've had times where I've woken up too hot because that food, that fat, that 85% fat burns in your stomach all night and keeps you warm. It's a little trick learned from the Inuit in the Arctic, actually. And lastly, I have some other advice, but it's all hands on deck. This is a scary moment piece of advice. If you're reduced to having some candles lit, and I don't advise open flames in the home, but if you're confident with that and that's something you're doing, that's not going to heat a lot, but perhaps try to suspend a steel plate over that candle, and that takes the heat and acts like a radiator and dispenses even more heat, because the candle itself is not much more heat than a human body gives off. And lastly is your mental stimulation. This is a very anxious, difficult time mentally speaking. And so believe it or not, what works in a situation like this is simple games, card games, board games, eat some fun food. I've heard it advised, stay away from alcohol and chocolate. And sure, alcohol thins out the blood. That's not good. Caffeine was actually what I meant to say, not chocolate. But please don't tell me not to have a nice piece of, chocolate when I'm in a situation like this, or my coffee, for example. That's a sacrifice. I would personally say, look, it's better you keep your mental acuity there than you be so stressed out and you're not touching the coffee because you don't want to have caffeine in your body. So I don't want people over worrying that scenario. This is the time to let go of the diet.
People are losing it mentally as well because of the sanitary conditions. You touched on that for just a second, but we got a tweet from a viewer today asking, hey, I can't shower. I feel gross. Do you have any tips on what they can do right now for cleaning themselves besides the obvious wet wipes, or is that just all we're dealing with?
Yeah, and I don't mean to say this harshly, but you got to kind of get over that right now. This is not a time to be worrying about how clean you are, but because what you really have are sponge baths. If you can arrange water, then sponge bath. If it's wet wipes, it's wet wipes. But my primary advice is, look, just get over that right now. This is more, life is more important than worrying about that you've got a bit of underarm odor going on there. But the sanitation, as far as when you need to relieve yourself and so on, that's a tricky one. Yeah. And really, again, you're reduced to, and I'll be delicate here, but you're reduced to a bucket. But line the bucket with plastic bag that you can then actually tie up and get dispose of or get out of your living area. So if you're down to a bucket, you're down to a bucket. Modesty is important. It always is in a situation like this. You don't all of a sudden be toughing it out and asking your 16-year-old daughter, well, don't worry about it. We're all in a bad place. Go over there in the corner. No. This is very, very stressful. Set up a place of modesty where people need to take care of their business if that's what you're reduced down to.
Les, I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I have to tell you, of all of this, we've all here at KHOU and, most importantly, our viewers as well have either lost power, lost water, lost everything, spotty cell service, all of that, boil water. And I think for me personally, the grossest and most unfortunate part of all this is that loss of water and the toilets not working, that foul smell. So that is a good tip, the bucket. We have to do what we have to do. So we appreciate that. And in the meantime, we want to bring in Lauren Tallarico because she's fielding some of our viewer questions. Lauren, has anyone tweeted you or reached out for a question for Les?
Okay, so let's kind of answer this a little bit as far as having a cup of coffee or kind of making those sacrifices to keep your mental health somewhat stable. But that's the question here is, when the power goes out, when you're in the dark, when it's cold, when there doesn't seem to be an end in sight in that moment, I would imagine your mental sanity is so important when it comes to surviving. So what advice do you have for people to stay mentally strong and realize this is going to end? It doesn't feel like it at the time a lot.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I, the first thing that my knee jerk first of all is remember community. Community is so much more important in survival situations like this and natural disasters than we give it credit. Now, it's a little late to get to know your neighbor, in an after the fact situation. So it's a forced situation, but let's remember community, and that can build your mental stability, if you will. It can build up your emotions when if you're in a position where you're able-bodied and you're strong and you're healthy and you're able to walk and you're able to get out and help your neighbors. You go out, just that knock on the door saying, listen, I'm 7 houses away. We've never met before, but I'm actually a first responder. I don't know if you knew that, and I do have some supplies. Do you need anything? And that will. So I'm giving this job to the person who is feeling really strong to pass on that kind of community effort. But for your own self, again, I get back to it's the time killers, isn't it? It's the time. People don't recognize how much boredom is crushing in a situation like this. Boredom is a very crushing situation. So I've interviewed so many people. Again, sorry for the shameless plug, but it's going to be an important show, which is Surviving Disasters with Les Stroud. I've interviewed all these people, and one thing that kept coming up: card games, board games, just being able, trivia games, just being able to pass the time that way. And that, I guess the bright side is that brings back that sense of community right within your home. And if you do give me 30 seconds at the end, I have one last little quick shot list of advice, by the way.
Take it away right now, Les.
All right. So it's this, and unfortunately, some of this advice would be better heard before the experience, the problem. Remember that if you're a camper, your camping equipment is all emergency equipment. Don't forget that. You might have propane tanks and things like that. Why don't we set up our camping gear right on the porch or out? Perfect. Use the cold outside to keep your food fresh, so you don't have your fridge is shut down, but it's cold enough. Put it in coolers. Get it outside on a deck, sort of thing. And I understand some people are in apartments, some people are in condominiums, so it's general advice. Use solar lights. Solar lights are the best. That works great for your lighting. 5 other things very quickly. Figure out which generators you really need. You might not need the big expensive generator to run your house. Maybe one generator just keeps your fridge going. Ration your food. Do that. I know the power's come back on for all but 45,000 people according to your feed, but that doesn't mean it's not going to shut down again, right? So let's remember that. If it's safe, if it's possible, and you can leave. Last one is if you do have to leave and you can leave, remember, cold is not so much the issue. Wind is. Wind is the horrifying thing for me in any survival situation. I've spoken fastly. I hope at least some of this helps.
So much.
Great
you have been a
advice.
wealth of knowledge. Les Stroud, thank you so much. The Survivor Man and our expert this morning. Thank you for being with us here on H-Town Rush. We'll be right back.
Thank you.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
Right, guys, just about 7:54, 73:58. So just about time here at 7:54. We now have a hard freeze warning in effect, and this is for most all of our counties this morning, where temperatures are expected overnight to fall into the teens and 20s. Take a look. This is tomorrow at 10 a.m. when that hard freeze warning is in effect. I really want you to take note of these temperatures. I know a lot of you are streaming us. You're watching us on Facebook this morning. Thanks for watching, but please take the right precautions for your pipes. This will be the type of cold that will be very capable of either freezing pipes, bursting your pipes. I mean, this is exactly what probably led to so many of the issues from Monday night into Tuesday morning. Just like that, that's what we're going to see tonight into tomorrow morning. So on our 7-day, today temperatures remain basically in the 30s. We keep it under cloudy skies. It's Brenham to Livingston this morning that they're starting off with some winter precip, some sleet and even some ice this morning. Again, areas extremely northwest of town, but most everybody mainly in the 30s. Feeling though, look at these winds. We were just hearing about those winds, how serious they can be. We're expecting gusts today up to about 20, 25 miles per hour. So it'll make that 37 feel more like 25. And then that hard freeze takes effect overnight tonight. I'll send it over to you.
Whew. All right, Cheetah. Thank you so much. Hard freeze tonight. So we're joined now by Mike Berner. Mike, good morning to you. How you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. How are you guys over there?
Doing well, all considered, obviously. A lot of us don't have water. Some are going back and forth with power. But thank you for joining us. And on behalf of everyone here at KHOU and everyone at home, thank you for answering these questions. And Mike, you are the associate editor of Family Handyman. So actually, Cheetah Craft, our meteorologist here in the morning, she just mentioned this. We are on the verge of another hard freeze coming off days without power and no water. What sort of advice do you have really as the expert here for our viewers that I'm listening to, because I really want to kind of peel some of your information, peel your brain here?
Yeah, well, first of all, like that water thing is tough to deal with when you don't have any. We just dealt with the same thing with the water main break. Some things that you can do is fill up your bathtub for things like flushing your toilet. And what you can do with that water is dump that water into the tank of your toilet so that you can then flush it. Things like washing dishes, that water is great for stuff like that. Fill any drinking containers with drinking waters that you have. Some other sources of water might include a dehumidifier if you've got one. Keep that running so you can keep that water coming out of the air. Rain barrels if you have that. Snow is another source of water. You can bring that inside and let it melt so you can use that for things like flushing the toilet and washing hands and dishes and things like that.
Something I did see, Mike, and you know what? I saw this on social media, and then I saw it at my apartment complex too. People were going into the pool and just getting, buckets and buckets of water and then taking it back to their apartment. Can you explain maybe how that could be helpful for people that aren't living in a home, say maybe they're living in an apartment complex? How would that sort of be beneficial for folks getting water from a pool maybe?
Yeah, well, certainly you don't want to drink that water, but
Yeah.
Like I said, you can use that water to flush toilets is a major thing. You don't want to be sitting around your house with, that stuff going on. Washing dishes and washing hands and giving yourself sponge baths, all that is good to use that water for.
All right, we're going to bring in Lauren Tallarico if we can. Oh, no, we cannot bring in Lauren Tallarico. All right, so Mike, you're the expert here. For people at home that, no power, a lot of people are getting power back, but there's the chance that they may lose power again. Any, home hacks that you have for people at home if they should lose power again, or if they're still without power and the water pressure situation's still uncertain here as it is Thursday in February?
Yeah, so if you've got power, heat your house up, open those cabinets so that air flows behind where your plumbing is sitting. Other things that you can do is cover your pipes with blankets, and if those pipes are outside, cover those again with like a tarp or something to keep the weather off of them. And one other thing to remember is as that water thaws in your home, if you've got freezing pipes, that might be the time when you start seeing a leak. Maybe that pipe bursts, but the ice is now blocking that. Know where your water shut off is at, so that you can then turn the water off so you don't have a major issue. Another thing to remember is there's a little cap that you can buy at the hardware store called a shark bite, and there's a plug. So if you do have a leak and it's a bad one, you can then cut the pipe and plug that pipe up so that it stops the water, so that you have time to call a plumber. Absolutely,
and those are relatively inexpensive too, so that could be a quick fix to save people in the long run a lot of money. All right, Mike Berner, Associate Editor of Family Handyman, thank you so much. We really appreciate it this morning.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back after this short break.
Cold weather means using a lot more energy. I'm Tiffany Craig. CenterPoint Energy suggests setting your thermostat no higher than 68 degrees and then dress in layers. But to keep costs down, 65 is the ideal setting. And when you leave the house, lower it to 60. If your heating system isn't working properly, it can cause a fire or carbon monoxide poisoning. I'm Tiffany Craig. A space heater that uses gas, propane, or wood should be vented to the outside. And double check your carbon monoxide and smoke alarms now to make sure they're working properly.
From the KHOU 11 studios, this is H-Town Rush.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of H-Town Rush. I'm Steph Simmons.
And I'm Xavier Walton alongside Cheetah Craft and Lauren Tallarico.
Yeah, good morning. We are live online right now to help answer your questions. We've got a great lineup of guests this hour. A Kroger Stores executive, Police Chief Art Acevedo of Houston, and an expert on insurance claims. I know a lot of people, unfortunately, we'll need to be filing those. Just let us know. What do you want to know? Text us now at 713-526-1111.
But first, we want to get over to Cheetah Craft on another very cold morning. And it's going to be an even colder night.
Yeah, that's right. And even some of our wind chills this morning are actually in the teens and 20s. So it is a really cold morning, and it's going to stay that way throughout the day. And then our hard freeze warning. So the National Weather Service just issued that hard freeze warning that takes effect this evening through 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. Okay, let's first talk about what's going on right now. So live look at the radar this morning. The good news is most of you who are watching this live stream with us, you're waking up dry. It's only areas from Brenham almost to Livingston. That's the line where we've had reports of some freezing rain, sleet. The areas that are seeing that winter precipitation this morning, I'm actually expecting that chance to continue right through the afternoon. But let me zoom in on some 290 from Cypress into Hempstead. So I know a lot of you here wanting to know how 290 looks. So far, so good this morning. You're just under cloudy skies. 45 northbound, Spring, the Woodlands, all the way into Conroe this morning. You're still looking pretty good. I mean, areas that haven't been above the freezing point or haven't had direct sunlight, you may still see icing from what we've already seen this week, but there's not anything additional new, okay? And I'm not expecting that for today. Areas in town, south of town, you're looking a whole lot better. Temperatures are actually above the freezing point in most spots. 33 at Hobby Airport, 35 this morning in Galveston, 32, so right at the freezing point there in Sugar Land. However, when you factor in the winds this morning, they're breezy out of the north, widespread, we're actually feeling in the 20s. So it is a really cold start to the day. I want you to be prepared for that. But it is the upper 20s, okay, from College Station into Huntsville, Livingston this morning at 30. So you can see why any rain that would move in would transition to either freezing rain or sleet. Most people, though, I want to put your forecast today in perspective. You keep it under cloudy skies, and then it's just the winds that are making these 30s feel in the 20s. So we do have a really cold, cloudy day ahead. So not a pretty day, and we're not warming up today. And then one more really cold night. Let's focus in on tonight. I think this is going to be an issue. Back to our pipes. When we have a hard freeze in effect, teens and 20s, we will see some of our pipes at risk, either for freezing or for bursting. So you need to take all the winter precautions, just how we did at the beginning of the week, for one more night tonight. After that, by about midday tomorrow, we're going to start to see these temperatures warm up, that sunshine move in. So finally, we'll see improving conditions. But tonight, be prepared. 21 teens to low 20s here from Huntsville into College Station, 20 for Brenham. And then once you head in town, more mid, I think, 20s. And then pushing into the mid 30s as you head towards the coastline. But again, cold enough air that easily pipes, that will still be a concern. So again, this will be a concern, but then finally sunshine after. We'll talk more about that. And that winter weather advisory that's in effect today for areas northwest in just a little bit. All right, I'll send it over to you.
All right, Cheetah, 804, we've been talking about this today. Let's take a look at our Drive Texas map. And so Cheetah's been really mentioning these areas, north and west, and those are the freeways I'm concerned about. So 290, we're going to talk about some problems we've had there in just a second. 249 is like an ice skating rink the further north that you go, so be very careful. It's open in portions, but it is very dangerous on your North Freeway as you head up into Montgomery County, and then on your East Tex Freeway as well. Now, one area of town that's far from this, but still seeing some closures, is going to be your 225, and we'll get into that in the Pasadena Deer Park area. But I should mention that those feeder roads are open. 290 at Cypress Rose Hill, not far away from here. Just a couple of minutes ago, we had an inbound incident at Mason reported. This is the closest camera we have to that area. It's clear, but again, a little bit icy there. So let's take a look at our quad cameras, our hot spots around town, and these are just going to change really frequently, but you can get an idea of the other areas of town where those lanes are open. You've got some cars on the roads, but we don't have any actual traffic out there. So just go as fast as conditions allow. If you hit an icy patch, or maybe you see some snow accumulated on the side, on the shoulder there, and you will in some spots, but again, to our northwest is the biggest concern. Xavier.
It's nice to just have those cameras working. The last 4 days, a lot of them have been frozen. All right, so the good news, more people are getting power back. The bad news, though, we're not out of the woods yet. CenterPoint is still asking people to conserve energy as best you can. And last night, our Mia Gradney talked to Tal Centers, the Vice President of Regional Gas Operations, to find out why that is.
The message going into tonight is conservancy. Why is this so critical?
When the power gets dispatched and the lights go on, what you immediately see is an immediate surge of power into the grid, as well as the gas. All the gas appliances immediately come on. And so that's a huge demand that can come on the system immediately. So what we want to do is make room for that to be able to handle that when we dispatch that all at once.
We're hearing from a lot of people all across the city, CenterPoint customers, who are asking, how do we know how long these outages are going to last? Is there any type of schedule there so they can prepare and know how much time they're going to have the electricity for?
CenterPoint Energy is ready to deliver as soon as the energy and the capacity is released from ERCOT. When ERCOT releases capacity, they dispatch it across the entire Texas grid. CenterPoint Energy receives a portion of that dispatched capacity. Our commitment is whatever they release in generation capacity, we're going to dispatch it and do our best to bring people up immediately. And that's why we want to tell people to conserve so that there are no interruptions to that, so that we can bring it to them as quickly as possible and not have any interruptions in between.
So continue to conserve. And if you missed any of that interview, Mia's interview, it's on KHU.com to check that out. We are joined once again by Fred Anders. Fred, good morning to you again of TexasPowerGuide.com. And Fred, we talked about this a little bit and price hikes for people. We're hearing reports overnight, some people, getting power bills for anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Sure, yeah. More than likely, those folks are on electric plans that are indexed to the wholesale rate, which, as we heard earlier, can go up to a maximum of 900 cents per kilowatt hour, which is several hundred times what you would normally pay. So for folks that are unable to curtail their usage during this storm and are on that type of plan, they can be in for quite a bit of sticker shock.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say I check my email or I get it in the mail and I see how much my bill is. What do you do at that point? Do you get on the phone, or is there anything you really can do when you see your bill is that expensive?
Well, to clarify that's just one type of plan. That's not a lot of folks
Gotcha.
Generally are on, but for those that have been on that plan, those companies have been reaching out to their customers and actually suggesting that they switch elsewhere. As early as last Friday, they were starting to put that message out. Now, if people are still on that type of plan and they're still not able to reduce their demand for whatever reason, then it's not too late to switch. There are still several retailers that are accepting new customers, although they generally aren't switching you over until Saturday at the earliest. But if the prices remain high for the next few days, like we project, then it may still be worth the effort.
So I guess it's not too late to switch, but if you've been with this plan, you're gonna have to wait till Saturday. I guess you're kind of stuck with it, right?
Likely. Right. And if you're in a fixed rate plan, then you're all good. All you have to do in that case is just watch your email and text to make sure that your retailer stays in business, right? That they don't go to business due to the financial strain of this weather. If they do, and they switch you over to a what's called the provider of last resort, which is kind of like a safety net to keep your power on, but a rather expensive one, then just be prepared to switch to a more reasonable rate as soon as you can after that. But they'll notify you if that's the case. So most people shouldn't have to worry.
Yeah, and Fred, the big thing here is if you have a question and you don't know something, just call and ask, right? If you have the ability to do so. If you don't know, just call and ask. Fred Anders with Texas Power Guide. Hey, Fred, thanks again for your time. And I know you talked to Matt Doherty yesterday for his story there. Thanks again for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, now to this. We've seen very long lines at grocery stores this week as people rush for supplies. We are joined now by Joe Kelly, president of the Houston division of Kroger. Thank you for joining us, Joe. We're glad to have you here on our digital platforms. A lot of people are watching and they really want some answers from you because you guys are open now. Are all the locations open locally or just a few? We've seen long lines.
Yeah, so good morning. Yeah, we still have 3 that are closed, but they're closed due to broken pipes. They should get back open today. So we'll have all 108 grocery stores open today with deliveries on their way.
That's fantastic. Now, I know a lot of hot items are going off the shelves. How are you guys handling, first and foremost, the massive demand for bottled water with all of the boil water notices in town?
Sure. So first of all, our warehouse was without power until late yesterday afternoon, so that was down for 3 days. I think a point of note before I talk about the water, a lot of reasons they're seeing empty shelves, particularly in the fresh departments and dairy and frozen, is because we had a lot of stores that were down for 3 days, which means all that product had to be thrown out. So we're in the process of refilling with trucks that came in last night. There'll be trucks there today, tonight, 24/7 for probably take the next number of days to get filled back up. But as it relates to bottled water, we shipped 25,000 cases to the stores last night. That's not enough for Houston, but we do have over 170 truckloads of water on their way from Irving, Texas. We also have some coming in from Florida and from Indianapolis. And I've also been in touch with the hospitals, Mayor Turner, Judge Hidalgo, and the food banks. So we'll be happy to help them with some water as soon as it gets here as well.
Our entire city and surrounding areas is super grateful that your stores have remained open, but that also means your staff has to be there. How are they holding up? Because I'm sure at their own homes, they are dealing with the same things that we are with no power and no water.
Yeah, so thanks for that. First of all, I've been talking about our staff since the beginning of the pandemic and even before that. It's all about the community, right? If we're going to have these stores here in Texas and in the communities, we need to be responsible for the communities, and our staff does that every day. Certainly, more and more folks are showing up today. Our warehouse is at full staff. Store associates are starting to show up again, and we should be at full staff today, excuse me, as well as tomorrow, but you're 100% right. A lot of our associates, we have 18,500 associates here across Houston and a couple of stores in Louisiana. They have broken pipes. They're without power themselves. They need to take care of their family. But as always, they're showing up at work and want to help our customers and certainly help the communities that we serve.
Yeah, and on a side note, thank you for being a huge supplier of so many jobs in our region. 18,000 plus, you just said. That is fantastic. And Joe, before we let you go, what's the one thing you would say to Houstonians and people in our region? What would it be, your message this morning for people?
Yeah, I'll just tell you that, listen, Kroger's been here for well over 50 years. We've been solid through the pandemic. We'll continue to do so. It will take us a number of days to get filled back up. You'll be able to shop. Evident by yesterday, we were very busy. You will be able to shop. You might not be able to get the varieties that you're looking for a couple of weeks, but you'll be able to put food on your table. So certainly don't panic. Come visit us at the store, and please just thank our associates while you're in the building.
A huge source of help, Kroger and Joe Kelly. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll be right back after the break.
Thanks for having me. Take care.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
Hey everybody, time is 8:17. Xavier Walton here alongside Stephanie Simmons. How to safely boil your water. If you do have power to do so, you really need to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Melissa Correa is walking you through it.
Hey friends, if you need to boil your water because you received a boil water notice, this is what it means to have a rolling boil. Big, vigorous bubbles at the surface of the water that even when you stir it, the bubbles stay put. You need to do that for 2 minutes. Then you can transfer it over. You're going to need to boil water for every type of water situation you consume. So eating, drinking, freezing ice, brushing your teeth, washing your face.
These outages have caused some major issues we've been telling you about this morning, and one of them is trying to determine if the food in your fridge is still safe to eat. Our Tiffany Craig shows us how to tell if something has spoiled during a power outage.
If you've had your power restored, it might be tempting to fire up your oven and cook some hot food. But there are some important things to keep in mind before you do that. Check the temperature inside your fridge and freezer. If it's been above 40 degrees for 2 hours or more, you need to get rid of things like meat, poultry, seafood, eggs, or any leftovers you might have. When it comes to your freezer, check frozen food for ice crystals. If your food still has ice crystals when the power came back on, you're good. Also, if food stayed 40 degrees or below, you can refreeze it. Never taste food to decide if it's safe. It's better to be safe than sorry in that situation. And if you have questions about whether something is still good or not, it's better to just throw it away.
All right, we probably will do that at our house with everything anyway. Gina, you can't do the sniff test, can you?
No, you cannot.
Or to your husband, can you taste this, honey?
Oh, God.
If it passes the man's stomach test, then maybe.
You know, in our house, my goodness, I tell you what, a couple days ago, we actually did take a chest, fill it up with ice, and we put our milk in there. We did do that. We had to put it outside. We lost power for over 24 hours, and then it's been really spotty ever since then, but it did come on last night. So thankfully, we are in that mode. Okay, let me catch up. I was trying to look at some of the latest model runs as far as our temperatures for tomorrow morning. So since we are on Facebook Live, you're streaming this morning, let me show you. We are dealing with a decent amount of winter precipitation here, areas northwest. So Bryan, College Station, potentially portions of Huntsville into Livingston. I've seen some of your tweets this morning and some of your messages. Some of you have been asking about the Woodlands. I'll try to get her name, but she was trying to take her mom for a second vaccine shot, and she was curious how the Woodlands, the roads were doing in the Woodlands. So I will say this, if there are any areas that haven't seen direct sunlight or temperatures above freezing, what did already freeze is probably still an issue. We haven't seen any additional moisture this morning that would make for any new problematic spots. Okay, so and temperatures have been hovering around the freezing point all morning long, even from Spring, Woodlock, Conroe, all across portions of 45 this morning. Again, we haven't seen any new additional moisture for anything else to freeze. 59 into 69 quarter, you're looking okay. Near IAH, near Atascocita this morning. Notice how we are under cloudy skies. Temperatures are cold. We're at now 31 degrees at Bush Intercontinental Airport, but again, no moisture. So that's kind of the good news with this story this morning. It is only areas extreme northwest of town. But if you are in College Station or Huntsville, or you wanted to do something areas northwest of there, I wouldn't count on it because roads are still going to be extremely dangerous. In town, south of town, not an issue. Road conditions are not the issue here. Even at both airports, we've been here, or I've been reading tweets from them. We've been hearing from them. Hobby Airport overnight, they really got conditions. They had a whole crew working overnight, so they are good to go this morning. I know IH is experiencing still a lot of delays, but check in with your airline there. But that's good. At least we've been hearing from those airports. Now, throughout the day, clouds stay in place, so don't expect much of a change with your temperatures. All right, this morning you're waking up to cloudy skies. Cloudy skies will take you through the afternoon. We also have a really breezy to gusty north wind, so it's going to make those 30s this afternoon feel in the 20s. But this is what I want to prepare you for. This is the next spot that I think overnight will be impacting so many people, just area wide. This hard freeze warning will take our temperatures overnight. Teens expected on the north side of town, 20s expected in town. Cold enough air that we could be looking at some of our pipes freezing or bursting. Please take all the proper precautions. So many people suffering right now in their homes of these busted pipes. If you're not one of them, be thankful for that, but try to prevent that happening overnight into tomorrow morning. If you need to see those tips again, go to khou.com, or if you can, download the KHOU 11 app. We'll do our best to also answer some of the questions. Since you're watching and this is Facebook Live, post your question and we'll try to get to that answered and respond to you, because this will be the next problem here. Also, a lot of energy is going to be needed overnight again because temperatures are going to be so cold. We're going to be dropping, think from last night to this morning, a good 10 or 15 degrees, even colder. So the actual air temperatures in the 30s today. Factor in the breezy winds, it's going to be feeling in the 20s. Good thing is the winds die down tomorrow, so it's actually going to be what you're waking up to. I think it'll feel a little bit more like what you're seeing. Sunny skies, though, into the weekend. So I don't know, a lot going on. We just have to get through the next 24 hours. Steph, I'll send it over to you.
We sure do, and you know what? We're doing okay as far as the roads and the last 24 hours. Now, that being said, there's still some icy spots out there, but for the most part, we're very light on accidents, and any accidents we have had this morning are minor in nature, and they've cleared very quickly. And the reason why they're clearing is that there's not as much ice on the roads and there's not as much traffic. So let's take you to a spot where we just had a minor crash cleared. This was on the southbound side of 5969, right before you hit the West Loop. Let's look at our hotspot cameras, and you can see around town, Gulf Freeway looking great coming out of Galveston County this morning. And you know what? Since very early this morning, like 4 o'clock, those roads really shaped up. Totally different picture than what we saw earlier in the week. So these cameras are just kind of rotating every few seconds and just showing you different spots around town. Again, no accidents, no incidents or any stalls, but these are the areas of town, the red lines indicating where you might encounter some icy roads, icy freeways, icy surface streets. They are not necessarily closed. You just have to proceed with caution. All right, keep it right here. We'll be back after the break.
Cold weather means using a lot more energy. I'm Tiffany Craig. CenterPoint Energy suggests setting your thermostat no higher than 68 degrees and then dress in layers. But to keep costs down, 65 is the ideal setting. And when you leave the house, lower it to 60. If your heating system isn't working properly, it can cause a fire or carbon monoxide poisoning. I'm Tiffany Craig. A space heater that uses gas, propane, or wood should be vented to the outside. And double check your carbon monoxide and smoke alarms now to make sure they're working properly. Keep the cold air out and make your home airtight against this frigid weather. I'm Tiffany Craig. CenterPoint Energy suggests sealing leaks around your doors, windows, or pipes with caulk or weather stripping. Also, consider adding more insulation in your attic. That will help too.
Hey everybody, Xavier Walton here. Thank you for joining us. It is 8:26. We just want to do a quick check on the CenterPoint outage tracker map. Some really big progress overnight. We're now down to just over 46,000 Houston customers without power. That's good news, but obviously plenty of people still needing help. And CenterPoint says They are putting out all the energy and gas that they receive from ERCOT, Steph, which is great news.
You know what? The number's looking so much better than they did earlier this morning even, so hopefully we can just continue to see that number decrease. And with that in mind, we are seeing a lot of viral claims lately saying that frozen wind turbines are the main cause of power outages here in Texas. So our Verify team is looking into this and getting you the facts. Here's Jason Puckett.
Are wind and solar power the main causes of widespread power shortages in Texas? Why are we talking about this? Well, millions in the Lone Star State are still without power, and now politicians are pointing their fingers at renewable energy sources, saying they're to blame. But is that actually what's happening? Our sources here are multiple reports from the Electric Reliability Council of Texas, or ERCOT, and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. First, we need to explain that Texas has its own independent power grid. That makes it difficult for them to borrow power from other regions. Now, 90% of the Texas grid is managed by ERCOT. Right now, they report that 185 generating units have gone offline during these storms because of, quote, a combo of frozen wind turbines, limited gas supplies, low gas pressure, and frozen instrumentation. Texas Governor Abbott says one of the biggest problems is frozen natural gas pipes.
It's just frozen right now. It's frozen in the pipeline. It's frozen at the rig. It's frozen in the transmission line.
So,
and
Governor,
so they are incapable, the natural gas providers are incapable of being able to come up with a gas that feeds into the generators that generate the power that will send power to people's residences.
ERCOT says a total of 46,000 megawatts of potential power can't be generated right now. 61% of that loss is from thermal sources like natural gas, coal, and nuclear plants. Only 39% is from solar and wind energy. That means the claims that wind and solar power are the main cause of the current power shortages in Texas are false. With your Verify, I'm Jason Puckett.
If you have something you want us to look into, send your Verify questions to verify@khou.com or reach out to us on Facebook or Twitter. All right, we're going to be right back answering more of your questions after this break.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
From the KHOU 11 studios, this is H-Town Rush.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of H-Town Rush. I'm Steph Simmons.
And I'm Xavier Walton alongside meteorologist Cheetah Craft, and we have Lauren Tallarico as well.
We are live right now on KHOU.com, Facebook, and also our other digital platforms.
Yeah, we are talking to experts and getting answers to your questions. Let us know what you want to know. I know a lot of people have questions. Text us now at 713-526-1111.
Yeah, right now, 713-526-1111. Text us, let us know. We do have a lot of interviews set up right now, including some advice from an insurance advisor.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to need that for sure. But first, we want to talk to Cheetah Craft to get a timeline on what we're dealing with today.
Okay, well, the good news is, guys, a lot of people are just waking up to cloudy skies and actually temperatures slightly, I'm talking by about a degree or two, but slightly above freezing. Not everybody, but a lot of you are waking up that way. Now, notice where we are seeing, though, that winter precipitation, and this is where we do have a winter weather advisory that's in effect through 6 o'clock this evening. So Brenham to Livingston this morning, including Huntsville, Bryan College Station, we've had reports of freezing rain, sleet, even a few flurries, but I want to zoom in on 290. I want to zoom in on I-10 westbound from Sealy to Katy to Attucks in town, across 290, Hempstead to Cypress in town, and across portions of 45 this morning. Notice we're not tracking any new moisture. So that means even if your temperatures are below freezing, it's cold enough where maybe anything that was icy from the past couple of days, maybe it could have stayed that way, but we're not looking at any additional moisture, and we haven't seen any overnight and in this morning. Okay, across portions of 45 here, Spring, the Woodlands, Woodlock, Conroe. So you want to take your time. If you do have to get out on the roadways, if you need to go to a grocery store, if you have a doctor's appointment, those types of things, make sure you're checking in to make sure they're open, that they have power and water has been restored, all of these things. But as far as the roadways go and any new precipitation, we haven't seen any of that, even I-10 eastbound. So temperatures this morning, 30 in Conroe, 30 in Tomball, 32 in Sugar Land. So again, all areas basically right around the freezing point. It's just either about a degree above or a degree below. When you factor in the winds, we are feeling in the teens and 20s. So it's 8:33 on your Thursday morning. It's feeling really cold out there, but take a good look at these numbers. We're feeling like it today. I'm expecting actual air temperature like that for tomorrow. Throughout much of your day today, through your afternoon, clouds remain in place. That north wind stays breezy, so it'll make that 37 feel down to 25. Our wind chill temperatures today is what will really be the issue. Then, tonight into tomorrow morning, you've got to be prepared for this, okay? Another hard freeze warning is in effect basically area-wide. Pipes are going to be at risk for freezing or bursting. Take all the proper precautions you can. Do everything that you can so your home wouldn't have to have anything happen. So again, those pipes, go to KHOU.com. You'll see all the tips, and you can also see what to do for different counties. But this is what I'm expecting tomorrow morning. Teens and low 20s, maybe mid 20s in town, and then closer to the coastline, low 30s. But a hard freeze is expected overnight into early tomorrow morning. That's because clouds will break and skies will clear, so no moisture along with it. You've got lots of sunshine in the forecast for your Friday. Once we can get through about midday tomorrow, that's when we really start to warm things up. But today we got to watch out for that winter precip from Brenham to Livingston line, and then the winds throughout the day, and then overnight that hard freeze. So a little bit, but it's only over the next 24 hours. I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, so you still have a lot going on in the forecast, Cheetah, not too much on our roadways. Let me take you straight to our TransStar camera and show you kind of what we're dealing with around town. So the toll roads, for the most part, still shut down as a precaution, really monitoring that forecast and maybe making the call. We'll let you know if this changes, but to possibly keep those shut down until tomorrow morning when things take a turn for the better. That was the Hardy Toll Road. So as you can see, a no man's land there, but different story with our other cameras. What I do want you to notice in these ever-changing quad cams is that we have very light traffic pretty much anywhere you want to go. We have no accidents out there, no other traffic hazards, and the lanes do not have those icy spots that we saw yesterday. So very good news there, Xavier, and a nice note to end on.
Absolutely, that's a positive. All right, Steph, thank you. I'm joined now by Houston Police Chief Art Acevedo. Police Chief, first off, I got to ask you, how are you doing these last 4 days, and also how are your officers doing? Oh, looks like we're going to hit the unmute button. Do we got him?
Oh, yeah, I thought you guys were going to do it. Sorry.
No, it's all good.
Hey, good morning. Thank you, guys. think we're all tired, but we're still coming to work. You know, a lot of us are dealing with broken pipes in our own homes and no water, no electricity. But just like Harvey, and every time we have a natural disaster or a challenge here, our men and women keep coming to work. It makes me so proud to see them with their smiles on their faces and still chasing bad guys, still trying to keep our community safe, and just doing the work that our great community expects of us. So lot to be proud of in these challenging times.
You know, Chief, you just mentioned Harvey. Where does this week stack up for you and your team dealing with this disaster?
You know, it is. I've been here for 4 years, and it seems like we were talking yesterday. Like, when is this going to end? Right? If it's not storms, it's you know, we've had so many things happen here. And I think it does in terms of the challenge to the people of Houston and the pain that our community is suffering. It's up there. It's not quite a Harvey, but it's still been very challenging, and it's been sustained. I mean, we're here, started Sunday, and here we are on Thursday, and we're still not completely out of the woods, even though we're doing a lot better today than we have been. And so it's been a long 4 days, but together with Houstonians, we're going to get through it, because that's what we do as a city that considers itself Houston strong, and I think we're proving it again.
No, absolutely. That is what we do here as Houstonians. You kind of touched on it there a little bit. We're not out of the woods yet. You know, tonight we have another freeze. What do you say to the community? Safety risks, maybe road hazards. People did really heed the warnings the past 4 days. I was proud of us. But what do you say as we have one more freeze coming up tonight?
Hey, we're coming in. We're in the home stretch, right? We're past the 10. That's how close we are to getting through this period. And let's not get our guards down in terms of the roadway conditions. We've got to look to see if there's any precipitation. I don't think there is, but I still see some ice out on some parts of the roadway. We were able to open up just about everything we had closed a little while ago. And just think about this big old city, 670 plus square miles. We've had one traffic fatality since Sunday, since 6 p.m. Sunday. And that speaks to the fact that Houstonians trust, I think they trust the mayor in terms of his suggestions, his recommendations of people staying home. People have stayed home. And I think as a result, people are alive today that wouldn't have been alive had they all taken to the roads. And so we have a lot to be proud of, but we're not out of it yet. We've got probably close to 10 people that have lost their lives that may be weather related. We'll have to wait to see what the medical examiner says. We know that we had 2 from carbon monoxide poisoning, a young a mother and a daughter and a young boy in the same family that was in critical condition. And we know that we lost at least 2 that have been confirmed to be from the elements. We've had the warning centers up, but you know, not everybody has gone to them, especially our homeless population. It's our most, I think, our most vulnerable in terms of the elements. So today, I've directed my team to once again start looking through the city, our hot teams, our homeless outreach teams, to make sure we don't have anyone out there that's either, you know, suffering from hypothermia or close to death or dead, sadly. So we'll be in the camps again today, making sure that nobody's out there needing help or, God forbid, someone that's lost their lives.
Absolutely. And you know what, Chief, I was going through your Twitter, very active. A couple of things I saw I wanted to ask you about. You know, we had people that were posing as utility or power company workers, you know, just taking advantage of people that are vulnerable right now, and also looters, people burglarizing businesses. What do you have to say to those people when, you know, Houstonians really are struggling, even though a lot of people are getting power back, still water, big issue. So what do you say to those folks?
Well, look, it's really interesting to me. You know, if you look at that tweet where I talked about, hey, we're not going to tolerate it. We're not going to let our community be victimized. You know, you see some trolls from, you know, the East Coast there in New York about how heartless we are. Let me just say this. We are a generous city. This is a hardworking city. This is a working class city. And the last thing that we're going to do is let our community, you know, when they've evacuated the warming centers because they've lost power, they've lost water, this is the last thing we're going to do is let our community be victimized by people, miscreants that have no respect for folks. if people needed food, they could have. There was plenty of help out here. And the last thing we were going to allow is for people to go out and break into homes. In terms of looting, we did have some reports a couple of nights ago of near the Braeswood area, some folks breaking into homes, but we've saturated our neighborhoods with police cars with their lights going, and also a lot of detectives and unmarked cars. And I think that's really had a deterrent effect. If you look at the way this community responds during these natural disasters and these natural challenges from Mother Nature, Hurricane Harvey, and now the ice storm here of 2021, much different than Katrina and other places across the country. And I think it speaks to the excellence of the people of Houston, and it speaks to the men and women of the Houston Police Department that we come together and we stand strong to get through these challenging times. And so we're going to continue to stand strong. Yes, last night we had, sadly, a guy that was going around robbing taco stands. They're trying to keep people fed at night up in our North Shepherd Division. Robbed at least 2 of them, and unfortunately, he lost his life when he confronted, armed with a semi-automatic, 2 of our young patrol officers. But there they are. They're still working. They're not hanging out under a freeway. They're not just trying to stay warm. They're actually out doing the work. And a couple minutes after I left that scene, another North Shepherd unit going after in pursuit of another bad guy in the stolen car. We ended up catching him way down there in Southeast Division off of Scott in the 45 freeway. This guy's on bond. Imagine that, on bond,
Yeah, I saw that tweet.
ankle monitor. And here we are chasing the same bad guy that's been in and out of jail in this revolving jail that we have here in Harris County, putting the community at risk, putting our officers at risk, and putting the suspect at risk. But again, it just shows that our men and women have continued to work hard to keep Houstonians safe throughout this challenging period of time.
Yeah, working long hours on little to no sleep in adverse conditions. Hey, Chief, how many arrests have you guys made for looting?
I don't think that we've had any.
Okay.
When we got the reports, but I'll double check, but when we got the reports in terms of the Braeswood area was the first time we had that report. We saturated the area. We stayed in the area. We didn't make any arrests that I'm aware of, but I will double check with our Department Operations Center and get back to you on that, on those numbers, if any.
Okay, greatly appreciated. And last thing, this goes to your leadership. Houston, you've said it many times, has been extremely resilient and relentless this week. Would you mind just commenting on that one more time as we kind of round the corner here?
Hey, you know what? Houston is the biggest melting pot in this country. We're the city of tomorrow. And what I love about this city is that we have gone through a lot. I mean, 2 World Series, a win and a loss, World Series parade, crazy kid blowing stuff up off of Rice that we ended up arresting. I can just go on down the line. But what makes me so proud, having points of reference, because I've lived in 2 states and 3 different departments that I've served in, I've never seen a community or a police department that comes together like Houstonians do, that heed the warnings, that really take to heart our collective safety, neighbor helping neighbor, churches helping the community, and local government doing everything they can to keep people safe. And I think we should all be proud of that. I know I am. And I want to just say thank you, Houston, for being the great community that you are. And thank you to our men and women and our partners at the fire department and all public services for the great work they've been doing.
Absolutely. Thank you to all the first responders out there. And thank you, Police Chief Art Acevedo. Thank you for your time this morning. Really do appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, take care. We'll be right back after this short break.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.
Forty-seven, welcome back, everybody. We know a lot of you are seeing damage from outages or busted pipes. So Elizabeth Gulick, VP of Catastrophe Services from USAA, is with us now to answer some of your insurance questions. Ooh, Elizabeth, we're glad you're here. This is a hot topic. So let's start with some of the types of claims you're going to be seeing, if not already.
Yes, thank you, and appreciate you having us. Yes, we already have many claims flowing in, as you can imagine, across the state. There is, of course, food spoilage claims from the power outages. We also are having bursted pipes from, the freeze. Those are the main types of, and the ensuing water damage, of course. So those are the main claims that we're seeing thus far and anticipate we'll continue to see in the days ahead.
Okay, and for people who might be doing this for the first time, it's kind of a daunting task, or can be if you don't know how to do it. So how should people go about properly filing a claim for the first time?
Yes, so at USAA, we encourage our members to go to our USAA mobile app, or they can go to usaa.com/help. And they can file their claim digitally. That's 24/7. They can file it and also follow up status that way. Of course, there is the phone call that they can make as well, but digital is really, if they have the power and the reception, really the way to go to get their claim filed at any time that's convenient for them.
Okay, and if all of the claims were happening this week because of all of the crisis this week, how long does someone have? What's the window to file a claim?
Oh, they can file their claim at any time. In these types of claims, they will probably see the damage very quickly, but they have time to file their claim. We just ask that they get it in as soon as they see that damage so that we can start helping get their lives put back together.
Okay, we're going to bring in Lauren Tellerico, who has a viewer question now. Lauren, take it away.
Yeah, hi. You touched on this a little bit. One of the biggest questions that I'm seeing coming in is talking about food spoilage. And here's what I'm wondering. Can people, and what a lot of people are wondering, what can they be reimbursed for? Is there a money limit? And how do they go about filing something like that?
Sure, yes, there is a limit on the policy, and it's going to vary from company to company. But again, the quickest way to get help in that regard is to get that claim filed. We encourage digitally or by calling. That's the quickest way that we can help them out when they have that food spoilage.
And what do they need? Do they need to have like a grocery receipt? Do they need to have pictures? Is food spoilage something you can get reimbursed for?
Yes, on the policies, that is a reimbursable claim and damage. We ask a few questions. We encourage our members to take pictures of any and all damage, but we have simplified that as best we can to get them served immediately.
That's great, because a lot of people, they know to take pictures of pipes, they know to take pictures of furniture or damaged homes, but they don't necessarily know to take pictures of, that pot roast that they have in there or those food items.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
And that's really not necessary, but just get that claim filed and we'll get them helped very, very quickly.
getting them straightened away. All right, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining us. We will send it over to
Sure,
Xavier
Lauren.
now. Okay.
All right, thank you. Well, we've really seen so many problems with carbon monoxide in Houston this week. We're talking about more than 100 calls to the Houston Fire Department. So we want to talk about the safety aspect for anyone still without power. So we know there's about 45,000, give or take, people without power here in Houston. Dr. Hillary Fairbrother with UT Health and Memorial Hermann joining us now. Hillary, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. First off, how have you been? How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm still without power and water, so I'm one of the 45,000, and my heart goes out to everybody else who is still in that boat. So.
Wow. Well, in that case, seriously, thank you so much for doing this. We do really appreciate it.
Of course, I'm at my neighbor's house, so.
There you go. Doing this for you. Well, again, thank you. So let's get right into it. You know, you say you don't, if you're trying to heat up, warm up, don't go in the car, turn on the ignition, and then leave the car garage down. Back it out of the driveway. We've been saying these things all week. What are some symptoms for carbon monoxide poisoning that people should be aware of? Because when you're in the moment, you're just trying to stay warm. You don't necessarily know you have these symptoms, but there are some telltale signs.
There are some telltale signs of carbon monoxide poisoning, and I do want to remind everyone that they can be subtle and kind of sneaky, and so it's not always obvious. So the most common signs and symptoms that we see when patients come into the emergency department are nausea, vomiting, confusion, and sometimes the severe signs would, of course, be passing out or being unconscious and unresponsive. Sometimes people get short of breath or have some chest pain. All of those can be symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning.
You know, we warned people about this, and yet still it became a huge problem, especially in those early days when we expected rolling blackouts, not long power outages. What do you think it is with the carbon monoxide poisoning that just kind of caught people off guard, or maybe they're just not aware of it? Is it a lack of detectors or just a lack of awareness? What do you think?
So I think a lot of those detectors depend on power. So a lot of the carbon monoxide detectors either were working only partially or they weren't working at all. And many people don't have carbon monoxide detectors. They only have smoke detectors. And it is important to know what you have hanging up in your house, especially if you're renting and you didn't hang it yourself. It's also important to check the batteries of those detectors because the power has been out. So I think what I saw a lot of patients really try to do is they tried to limit the time that they were exposed. So they would bring an unsafe heating element in, whether it was a generator that was in a garage, whether it was a car that they left in the garage, whether it was a grill that they brought into their home. And they figured if they did something for a short amount of time, it would give some heat and it wouldn't be so dangerous. And unfortunately, that is not true. Bringing a grill into your home, having a car running in a garage, a generator in a garage, those things can let off dangerous levels of carbon monoxide. And our homes are not being ventilated right now. So if your vent system and your fans are not running, it does not take very long. We're talking an hour and sometimes even less for the level of carbon monoxide to build up in homes to an unsafe level and to really poison people.
Wow, that's it. I mean, you think about for how long people were without power and how they were trying to stay warm for probably longer than that, and that's the only time it takes.
I do. My heart goes out because I know that people were really in desperate measures, and they were trying to be safe, but they were trying to warm up their homes and doing things like using the stove and the oven that is gas to heat up your home. That same difference. It lets off carbon monoxide and there's no ventilation in your home right now. Even cracking a window is not the same as having vents and fans running. So it has led to dangerous levels and carbon monoxide poisonings like we have never seen in Houston. We've had over 300 cases in the last couple of days.
Oh my goodness.
And our system has just been inundated. We're definitely calling this a public health emergency of carbon monoxide poisonings.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Hillary Fairbrother, thank you so much, and I hope you get your power and water back soon. Thank you.
Me too. Me too. I hope the same for everyone in our community.
All right, that's it for us here online, but a special edition of H-Town Rush starts in just a couple of minutes at 9 a.m. right here on KHOU. Stay with us.
If your power goes out, there are some things you can do to keep warm. I'm Tiffany Craig. The National Weather Service says close your blinds and curtains to keep in the heat. Close off rooms to avoid wasting that heat. Stuff towels and blankets in cracks under the doors. Wear layers of loose-fitting, lightweight, warm clothes. And don't forget to eat and drink to keep your body warm. But what doesn't help? Caffeine and alcohol. Your pets are protected from this extreme weather, but the Houston SPCA wants you to be on the lookout for animals out in the cold. I'm Tiffany Craig. 713-869-7722. That's the SPCA number to call and report animals in distress or if you have questions. Again, the number is 713-869-7722.